Hello then, welcome to the World News on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. My name is Esther Wachuku. First, let's take a look at the highlights. We begin with Atiku Obi approaching the court today, demanding election materials inspection. 6 states praise Supreme Court to order review of presidential and National Assembly results. Dozens killed in Rivers crude oil explosion. Supreme Court set to deliver judgment today on naira swap. And bandits kill one, abduct 23 others in Kaduna community. Details now. The World News at 12 begins with the People's Democratic Party and the Labour Party presidential candidates Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi respectively approaching presidential election court to seek permission for the inspection of election materials used during last Saturday's poll. You'll recall that Atiku and Obi refused to concede defeat in the February 25 presidential election, vowing to recover their mandate in court. The two candidates rebuffed the gesture of conciliation made by the president-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who in his acceptance speech after he was declared the winner of the poll on Wednesday, asked them to support him in the task of building the nation. Atiku and Obi spoke at separate news conferences in Abuja on Thursday. To walk their talk, both presidential candidates requested in Abuja to allow them inspect materials used for the February 25 election. Their request is contained in two ex parte motions filed by the Presidential Election Committee Secretariat at the Court of Appeal, Abuja. Both motions with the Independent National Electoral Commission and two others as respondents have been listed for hearing today. Now I have on the telephone Barrister Fred Nzako. He's a public affairs analyst, a social commentator, to help us divest this particular development concerning the Labour Party and the People's Democratic Party. Barrister, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to our dear listener.
So, Barrister, the two opposition political parties, the PDP and the Labour Party, have actually decided to inspect the election materials that was used for the elections on Saturday. So, legally, do you think this will help in any situation concerning the grievances from a lot of their supporters who feel that their mandate was stolen from them?
That is the most important step they have to take, since they have, out of civility and respect for rule of law, submitted themselves to adjudication on issue of the fallout from the election. The most natural and the most important step they will take is to inspect the election materials, most especially from EC8A, which is the primary result sheet. The primary result sheet is the result of the various polling units across the country. Any other result sheet is secondary. That is the primary result sheet, and that is the one that INEC promised Nigerians that will be uploaded on the IREF real time. And since it was not done, and it was the collation was manually done, the very best thing they will do is to gather all the primary result sheets across the country and then do a recalculation of the various scores, which they scored at various polling booths, over 776,000 polling units across the country. So that is the only thing, that is the only way that they will very convincingly prove before the INEC and before the tribunal and beyond all reasonable doubt that their apprehension about the rigging of the election is real and valid. And it is expected that such will be made up.
People's Democratic Party, meaning that most of the persons who voted for the Labour Party were former supporters of the PDP. You do know that Peter Obi was formerly in the PDP before he joined the Labour Party. Do you think in any way that, affected the voting pattern for the People's Democratic Party?
Well, it's obvious that most of the people that moved over to Labour, especially those who were in PDP, moved over to Labour, and some others were young ones who had not had any political inclination before this election on account of the hope they have reposed on the personality of Peter Obi. Yes, it is obvious that if Peter and Atiku had run together, the game would have changed. But now that they didn't run together, any statement with that regard is a statement of of regrets. The medicine after death. It's an afterthought. The horse has bolted. There's no need closing the table. It's obvious that the combination of Atiku and Peter would have been a Midas touch, which would have been a thorough reflection of what happened in 2019. But this time around, Atiku ran solo, Peter ran solo, and the result is what we are seeing, even though that result does not sync very well with Nigerians, especially with respect to the fact that most Nigerians believe that the result announced by INEC was not a reflection of the will of the people. And that is why the political gladiators, presidential candidates, will be encouraged to look into all INEC primary election results from EC8A and come up with what is real. It is a tedious work, but it must be done so that nobody should run away with the mandate of the people. Whoever that the people have voted should be the one to lead the people. There's an application of suppression of results. All that will come to fall by the time they do their calculation. But then, if INEC tries not to cooperate with them, then that will mean that the apprehension of the people and the suspicion that INEC rigged that election is now real. So the ball is now back to the court of INEC to give PDP and Labour Party all the necessary cooperation with respect to from EC8A, the primary result sheet. They will expect that. They also expect the beavers to ensure that there is correspondency between what is on the result sheet and what is in the beavers machine.
No, okay. So, Barrister, finally, because there are quite a lot of questions I actually wanted to put a touchlight on. So, here is the scenario. For the elections that took place on February 25, it was presidential, senatorial, and House of Representatives. Now, for the senatorial and House of Representatives, results were uploaded via the beavers, to the IRF portal. Those ones did not experience any glitch. It was when, the uploading of results for the presidential, that was where glitches were experienced. And based on the Electoral Act, section 60 of the Electoral Act, it stipulated that was basically why, a lot of Nigerians supported, the modification of the Electoral Act in 2022 when the president eventually signed it. Now, there is a feeling, all right, from a lot of people that INEC contravened its own electoral laws. Do you think any punitive measures will be meted out on INEC for contravening this? Or is there any way in the electoral law that allows INEC to do the manual collation they did at the collation center?
The Constitution has given INEC authority to conduct the election in the way and manner they deem fit. And there's a subsidiary legislation, subsidiary to the Constitution, which is the Electoral Act, which has also given INEC every authority to conduct this election following certain guidelines and rules. INEC set the rules and the guidelines, but some INEC breached their rules and their guidelines and even breached the provisions of the Electoral Act. And I think that personalities should be punished for putting Nigeria in this type of quagmire. Electoral management body must be seen to be impartial and must be above board. So, but in a situation where partial elements populate the election management body and they carry out their whims and caprices, in some cases for fiduciary consideration, such persons must be brought to account. I think the reward and punishment system in Nigeria needs to be strengthened. When people undermine the provisions of the law, they should receive some measure of sanction and punishment, no matter what it is. And the Electoral Act has made provision for such punishments. I do not expect, and I do not think, that INEC officials, if found guilty of this infraction, should be let off the hook. They must be thoroughly punished.
All right. Thank you so much, Barrister, for responding to some of those questions. I do appreciate you coming in sometimes last minute to respond to, most of these pressing issues in the polity.
Many thanks.
All right. Thank you. This report just coming in states that the Supreme Court of the federal government concerning the naira redesign policy has declared it as an affront on the 1999 Constitution. The Apex Court has therefore ordered that the 200 naira, 5,000 naira, 1,000 naira, or rather 200 naira, 500 naira, 1,000 naira notes remain in circulation till December 31, 2023, meaning that the Supreme Court has nullified the federal government's naira redesign policy, which declaring it as an affront on the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And that is the breaking story just coming in right about now. So the Apex Court has therefore ordered that the 200 naira, 500 naira, 1,000 naira notes remain in circulation till December 31, 2023, as it is an affront to the 1999 Constitution. And that is the recent development coming from the Apex Court as of now. And still on the world news at 12, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, on Thursday said the presidential bid of his Labour Party counterpart, Peter Obi, is premature. Atiku, who stated this while addressing a press conference in Abuja, insisted that he remained the stepping stone to the aspiration of the Igbo to produce Nigeria's president. Speaking further, Atiku said Obi wounded his outing in the election by taking away the votes he would have gone for in the southeast and south-south. He also said his party was ready to have an alliance with the Labour Party if Peter Obi was willing. In the meantime, states of the Federation have dragged the federal government before the Supreme Court over the conduct and subsequent collation and announcement of the February 25 presidential and National Assembly elections. They allege that the collation and announcement of the results were carried out either through the manner prescribed by the provisions of the Electoral Act 2022, the INEC regulations and guidelines for the conduct of elections 2022, and the INEC manual for election officials. The suit is being filed by the Attorney General of Adamawa, Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, Delta, Edo, and Sokoto states. They predicated their case on the grounds that the collation of the national election results from the 36 states of the Federation and that of the Federal Capital Territory for the said 2023 elections have not been carried out in compliance with the mandatory provisions of relevant sections of the Electoral Act 2022. Now, this next report unfortunately reveals that some persons have been killed by an explosion that occurred at a pipeline tapping point in Umekwe community, Emoha local government area, Rivers State. Persons reported dead were said to be engaged in the business of illegal refining of stolen crude oil. The Executive Director, Youth and Environmental Advocacy Center, Fineface, confirmed the incident through the center's crude oil spill alert system. Fineface said the explosion happened at about 2 a.m. early on today when a driver kicked the ignition of one of the buses loaded with stolen crude oil. The bus was being used to transport the siphoned crude oil to the location of the illegal refineries. The explosion caused inferno that reportedly burned dozens of people, including women, beyond recognition. The incident, which occurred along the Trans-Niger Delta pipeline, also burned many vehicles and tricycles to ashes. Also, the bandits have killed one person and abducted 23 other residents in Dogundaji community along the Abuja-Kaduna near Kagarko town in Kaduna State. A resident, Shuaibu Damalam, said the bandits in their large numbers on Wednesday around 12 noon moved from house to house amid sporadic shooting and abducted men and women, and that one person who attempted to escape was shot dead. The Madaki of Jangala, Malam Samaila Babangida, confirmed the latest abduction to correspondents via the telephone yesterday. He said the bandits first attacked Kubal village near Jere town and abducted some persons before they proceeded to Dogundaji and abducted some villagers after killing one person. He noted that 8 villages that comprise 3 children, 2 women and 3 men that were abducted on February 7, 2023 at Gida Mikeri, a neighboring village, had regained their freedom after some money and 2 motorcycles were presented to the bandits on Sunday. Now, on stories outside the shores of Nigeria, we do have this report concerning Ukraine that some residents have been asked to leave Kupiansk. Kharkiv's military command urged families and those with limited mobility to leave due to constant shelling by Russian forces. Russia took the city, an important supply hub, early in the full-scale invasion, with Ukraine recapturing it last September. Meanwhile, Wagner Group says its troops have practically encircled Bakhmut. Earlier this week, President Volodymyr Zelensky admitted the situation in Bakhmut, around which is about 130 kilometers, 80 miles south of Kupiansk, was becoming more and more difficult. In Kupiansk, the Kharkiv Regional Military Administration said the evacuation order was due to the unstable security situation caused by Russia's shelling of the town and its surroundings. And now to wrap up the world news at 12, let's take a look once again at the headlines. Atiku, Obi approach court demand election material inspection. 6 states praise Supreme Court to order review of presidential and National Assembly results. Dozens killed in Rivers crude oil explosion. Supreme Court has delivered judgment today on naira swap policy. And bandits kill one, abduct 23 others in Kaduna community. And on stories outside the shores of Nigeria, Kiev orders evacuation in Kupiansk city it recaptured last year. And that is a wrap on the world news at 12 on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. My name is Esther Wachuku. To follow our social media handles at VOP 903 FM. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel at VOP 903 FM. Good afternoon and thank you for listening.
For all this month, Voice of the People